Okay, my friends, you are in for a treat. I'm not kidding you. I just about fell off my chair this morning. Jonathan Bowman sent me this, and he says it looks like blood cells. These big bars of gold. This guy's out digging, and what I show you, what he found, where he found it, is just amazing. And apparently, they're just all over the place. And I think I understand what it is. And they're not blood cells, I don't believe. Now, I have a ton of pictures from this whole thing, and he found all kinds of gems and jewelry and gold and the whole 9 yards right in this same spot. So, and I do understand, and this is all there was right here. This is what he's digging. He's just digging the stuff out, and I think I fully understand what's going on here, and it has all to do with transition metals and specific gravity, and primarily it's blood and a nucleophilic substitution. So let's just start in with the dazzle for a few minutes, and then we'll go into some of the chemistry. All right, how's that? Okay, this is going to be some dazzle. This is from Chak Crythink, and she posted up here, and I don't see any commercials or anything like it's on YouTube, but it's just a video, so I'm going to play it. Here goes. Now, it says, I found a treasure cave in a cliff while I was digging for crystals. I think I might have shown you the cliff. Very, very simple, just right there. Here goes. Now pay attention to what he's scraping off here. This is extremely muddy mud, all right? Remember that, very important. Look at those, that's all gold. And I mean, that is some very, very fine looking gold. Now, I don't know whether he thinks he found bars of gold but I'm going to tell you, I think this is all biological. And I think it's settled there due to specific gravity because of the weight of that metal. And I'll show it how it collects in seams of gold, which they call veins of gold. And they are actually arteries more than veins, but still biological plumbing. Now, these, I believe, are a different story. What these, I believe, are is the interstitium fluid-filled bags. And then running around them would have been straps and a fluid-filled highway up above, which is right there. That's where the fluid-filled highway would have been, above them. And below is these bags, and I'll show you that in the anatomical. But he keeps digging and digging and digging. And it's just nothing more than mud, which is nothing more than plasma, blood cells and things. And he's getting down to now where the metals have invaded that space, which was the fluid-filled compartments. That's what it seems like to me. You see, this was a whole cavity, which would have been the fluid-filled highway. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? And they're flat as a pancake on the other side, which everything was after they drowned in the Great Flood. Watch, he'll pull one of these out of here, and it's just as flat as it can be on the other side. You see it? Look at how flat it is. And they're all like that. Now, whether he thinks these are bars of gold or whether they just formed that way, I don't know. But you can see these little patterny looking things. Let me show. I think I might have something around. I'll show you. Very similar. All right, you see how this is all sort of... There was, I believe, fibers running right around here surrounding that as a capsule, basically, of fluids. That's what your interstitium is. Now, specific gravity brings down these transition metals to a certain level. If they have nowhere else to go, they end up collecting at a certain depth, depending upon their specific gravity and what stops them from flowing. And this thing is just loaded with all the transition metals of blood and crystals and everything else. I don't know if I showed you the crystals yet, but there's all crystals all over here too. See? And I have the same crystals here. I'm going to show you the stuff I have, because I don't have a lot of the gold. I have a little bit, but nothing like this guy. Okay, he's going to be showing a bunch of different gemstones and crystals and so forth. And I have one here in my shop right here. This one right here is in the microscope right now. And I'm looking at this, which is the biological connection to that, which I call tendon balls. And there it is right there. That's the biological attachment to this ball. That's literally a ball, as you can see it there in a second ago. Now, let me turn the lights off and give me a second to get it focused in. All right, this is the tendon stalk. Now you see these little gemstone-looking things. This is where blood came in to feed that stem, and this is like a little. At first, I didn't know whether it was a valve or I don't know what it is, but it's where the central core of the stalk is. And then, you know, it's got to move and be flexible, so it's sort of floating around in this matrix at one point. Now, look at this carefully. All right, I'm going to do this sort of by hand here. So I'm going to move it around, but we're up in the red tissue that's starting to come down to this area, which is where the tendon stalk is. And here we have all these crystals in the different colored little, again, I'm moving around, I can't help that. But these are the different transition metal colors. Now, this was not in a very heavily blood area. All right, there's a little bit of blood in this. That gave us a little bit of color, but not anything like the one where that guy had the gold. Now, you can see the actual little tendons. These are little tendon fibers. I'm going to bring this up quite a bit so we can see it in its entirety here. All right, you see that? That's what a tendon stalk looks like, a tendon anchor. There's a ball underneath there. And this is the anchor strap that comes down to it. It has to be fed with whatever it's getting here. But there's a whole area up here where there's juices or blood and metals and all kinds of things are transferring through here. And of course you can see that's pretty well obvious. That's blood up there. You see? And these here, you know, that's just the way they're designed. And I've seen plenty of them. I know what they are. And this is all biology. There's no question about that. Now, where he found those stones, I mean the gold, is going to be. Let me show you that. All right, just before we go any further, I just want to show you. When it's dark, you get a lot of depth of color. You can see all the different colors. And colors are nothing more, basically, in my world, they're transition metals. Now, as you turn it up brighter and brighter, you wash out those colors because you lose those depths of frequencies because you're much higher in the frequency. So as you go down, you see these colors change. You can see them. You get down to almost where it's almost dark, and you get your most color. I know, crazy. The world is crazy, man. But just think if you were the thing that guy found on that side of the hill, all that gold and stuff. That's very cool. Very rare you find something like that. All right, so you see my one, and this is what he's got here down here, and above that he had all that gold. Now, what mine is this. Hold on. This is a tendon ball. That's the attachment to the tendon ball right there. That's what I was looking at in the microscope. You see this brown looking stuff? That was a ball implanted with a strap coming out there that ran to attach this inside the skin so you could float around, and wherever it was anchored, the attachment would always come back. Now let me show you what that is anatomically. Okay, my friends, this is actually almost comical. When I explain to you the details here, you're going to freak out. All right, I am saying these bags right here, which were supposed to be fluid filled, had transitioned to accept all that gold and fill these bags up. And then it laid flat like a layer like this, so that they'd be flat. Now, there's going to be some tiny little balls in there, but not the gigantic balls like this. This one here is much, much bigger than you would find in the stuff he was showing. Because this is one of these little balls. And that's where the strap comes out to lock it in place. And this can stretch and move, and this is what they look like. You see how many balls there are inside your skin? And every one of them has a strap. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to get my belt to show you that. I show that every time. Genuine cowhide. Now, what happened here was a nucleophilic substitution. This right here was that fluid-filled highway right above, and this is the mud. And he was working in these gold bags down here. And right above, there was an empty space. That's what happens, is this fluid-filled highway just evaporated out, and now every one of these bags turned into a flat plate of gold. And it happens because of specific gravity, how much that weighs and where it's settled in the body. And it just happened to have a spot where it could be accepted by these open bags. And it just replaced what was in there. That's the substitution of nucleophilic substitution. Now, the things I'm showing you are from creatures that were absolutely enormous, but this is not even close to enormous. If this was one of the tendon balls, you see that? That's a microscopic shot in you. And this is even more microscopic. These balls are the same balls as you see right here. And this is when you get way down right into the skin. And these balls are, this is a pretty good sized ball. And that's one of these, that's the coating of that ball, which is one of these balls. And they are hard, they're hard. And then there's a strap comes out of them, it runs into a spring, and then they flop around and stretch and move, and that's how your body moves. Now, you think this is big? That's not big. This is good size. All right, this is the mucosa, that's the skin. Then you get down into the interstitium is right here, and then these balls were all embedded in that so they could stretch around, and just like skin does, and they've all eroded out, and they're very, very strong and hard. And so this is the Moki marbles out in Utah. Same thing. They were in the skin somewhere of somebody's skin, of a gigantic creature. I don't know what it was. This stuff is real. Now, people can laugh. They go, oh, the guy's crazy. Well, whatever you think is up to you. That, I'm telling you right now, is that, and that, I'm telling you right now, is this. And that, I'm telling you right now, is this. And this, I'm telling you right now, is just exactly the same thing you got under your skin. And that's where the skin layer is, and that's that interstitial highway that has just eroded away. And that, these things here, these bags have filled up with blood, with gold. That's what the guy found. So you take it for whatever you think it's worth. But that, as far as I'm concerned, where is it? Right here, look. You see, this was that interstitial highway, and these are the fluid-filled bags. They just filled up. Some of them are long and flat, some of them are round and little. I mean, it's absolutely fabulous. Very, very, very. Some of them are like this. This is exactly what you'd expect. And the bottoms are flat as a pancake, and that happens because of gravity. Everything just lays flat. Almost everything I have has one flat side. All right, because they all died in the flood like that. They're perfect on the top. Even his feathers and everything preserved. Caesar Augustus. It's a goose. This is a hair follicle. That's a hair follicle. That's where the muscle attaches. That's where the sebaceous gland is. And that's the root. And these creatures were extremely large. It's not. It's only can be in denial now. It can't. Nobody can examine it and allow themselves to see this and then just go on their way and say, "Oh, the guy's crazy." No, I'm not crazy. This is all real. And the people that won't listen to it, I'm having a hard time with them. I got to be perfectly honest with you. They're trying to teach your kids what is truth and not able to accept truth on their own. They're very, very distressing to me, to be perfectly honest. All right, whenever they talk about veins of gold, oh, that's exactly what it is. It's either an artery or a vein. Normally, I would say it's arteries. And I have one that shows the artery red blood and then the gold coming below it, so there's no question that was an artery. This one I'm not sure. This, when you see these seams of quartz, that was an artery at some point in time, almost 100% sure. And then you have seams of coal. All right, they call them coal seams, and that's where the black blood accumulates and turns into coal. That's the black blood. The red blood turns into mud, and it stays fluidy, and the red blood stays red, and in certain cases it just stays mud. It's just like that guy was picking out that mud. The black usually turns very hard. It's a different molecular structure, so it's got different oxygenation states. But anyway, we're going to look at all this stuff in a microscope, and this here's a toe. I know you say, "Oh, that can't be a toe." Yes, it is, and that's the artery side, and that's the vein side, and this is all where blood ran out at the bottom and crystallized into little, just like that guy was showing that blood before. And there was some gold coming out of that spot. I'll show this in a microscope. You'll see it. And this right here, that's a toe. That's a callus on the guy's toe. There was all kinds of different styles of feet and everything. I have the no-toes. I got all kinds of Oompa Loompas and no-toes and spring foots and, you name it. There was all kinds of creatures here. This is what's hard to accept, that they can't open their mind to even look at it. It's been 10 years I've been showing this stuff, and been, a lot of denial. This had blood in it. You see that blood? This was a toe. And this is I believe the vein side, and they just clamped off. And the artery side, it's a big toe, I believe. And this side here has the callus. That's a callus. I'm not kidding you. I know you think, "Oh, this guy's crazy." No, I don't think so. I do not think so, my friends. But that's for you to determine. I see, here it is right here. This is red blood. This is an artery, and this is what precipitated out, which was heavier than the plasma and so forth. And it gets to a point where it will clog up down here, and then it just keeps backing up. And I have a toe here, a giant toe, I mean huge, and I believe there's a ton of gold in there. It weighs just an enormous amount, and it had a callus I should show it to you. It has a callus right over the artery side. So the artery side came down, and it's just loaded with minerals. So I assume the gold is packed in behind this callus, and I can see some gold coming out. I probably will put it in a microscope later. But let's look at all this stuff. I mean, I got so much stuff we could spend days and days and weeks looking at it, which I do. All right, let me just quickly wrap up a couple things here before we go on. This, I told you, was a hair follicle. Here it is right here. All right, that's where the muscle attaches. And that right there is the sebaceous gland. And that's where the hair comes out and comes up the top. Those little two dots are the vein and the artery. And this is completely transitioned. This is nucleophilic substitution. Whatever it was in invaded it. Now this, I think, is the slow invasion, and it just keeps going and going and going until everything gets taken over. Now the fast invasion is different, and I think this was a fast invasion, and this is a toe. And I'll put this in the microscope, and you'll see, I'm not kidding you, this is a toe. And you're going to see all these transition metals in here, and all of the blood metals down here, these little shiny crystals. This is a fingertip. That's a fingertip. And the same thing here, the blood ran out. It runs out of the artery side. The artery side's got all the blood, and it gushes right out. You see, this is the red side. You'll be able to see this when I put some water on the microscope. And the red blood runs right out, and it ran out all here, because this was laying like this. And this was the same thing. The bottom is all coated with blood. It was laying like this. And these were in some other condition than the ones that turned to mud or slowly transition like this. I'm starting to sort of understand this better and better as I go through. There's a lot to understand. It's not just a one thing, it's all done. So stick around if you would like. All right, let's just go into the fingers and toes and the blood. You see the little two tops here, the little spots on the end? One of them is the artery comes down and it filters through and it comes back the vein side. There's two on this side, there's two at the ends, and there's two on the other side. The red ones usually blow right out. The black ones seal off at the tip and on the two sides, normally. Now, I have one here that the red side got sealed off by a callus. It couldn't get out, so it blew out the black side. That's just never happens. And this is a huge fingertip, toe. And the callus was on the big toe, and it capped off the artery side, so it couldn't blow out. So I think it's saturated with well, I can see it's saturated with metals. I'll put it in a microscope before too long. But before that, let's look at like some of these smaller ones, like the fingertips and the toe. That's a toe, that's a fingertip. That's a toe, and that's the callus. That's where his toenail was. He's red blood. And there's different looking toes and different looking feet. I think I explained that, and I can. There's no question I can show it. Well, here, hold on. I mean, they're all over the world, but this is a no toe, and we have them with the springs in the feet instead of. And I think this might have springs in here too, but I'm not sure. We have them eroded down to a fact. You can see the springs inside, no question. This is a foot from a creature unlike us. The toes are built inside. This is not a shoe. It looks like it has an emblem and everything, but this is all wrapped up what the Greeks used to call tunica. Here's where the blood supplied whatever was in there, but it was just something, a flexible part, coming right down to here like a spring. So we got a lot to look at that is just being overlooked now because it's a little on the spectacular side, and it changes a lot of things. I mean, it changes virtually everything because these giants were real, dragons were real, all that stuff was real. So if you want to just live like nothing's real and have a good time, ignorance is bliss, but it's still ignorance. And that's a bone. That's a cartilage. It's the same thing, nucleophilic substitution. It's absolutely flawless. And once you get past the outside, the feldspar, things inside turn to basalt and other types of things. And the giants were here, they were everywhere. Mine are DNA tested and CAT scanned and everything else, parts of them. And they are what they are. All right, this is a little fingertip. It's about the same size as mine. And that's where the blood ran out from the artery side. All right, this is all congealed blood on the bottom. It was laying flat like this. And the blood ran out here because that was the low spot. And these are what happens up inside. You know, all kinds of things happen. Hold on. Let's see if I can get some light on this thing. But that's where the blood runs out, and it crystallizes. Blood is all those different transition metals, and that's what a fingertip was. Now, down in the bottom here is an artery and a vein, one on each side. This side has an artery. And then they crystallize inside. All kinds of things happen. It depends. Again, it all depends where it was when it died. This one here is a fingertip too. It was a totally different situation. What happened? That's a fingertip right there. It's the bottom of the finger, and this is the black spot that runs right there. There's blood in there, and then I have the toes. We'll look at this toe. and put it in a microscope and all that. You can see a lot better. In a microscope with a light, the correct way of doing it, you can see everything. But it just died the same way. It leaked out here. It was dead like this. And the blood leaked out and turned into crystals. And I believe this was the guy's callus. I think it was a big toe, but I don't know. Actually, no, I don't think it was. Anyway, whatever. We've got to start studying, looking at this. So let's take a look at it in a microscope and see if anything excites you. Alright, I told you I was going to show you my belt. Well, get ready. This is virtually what happens inside of cowhide and different skin. You have to be able to pull and move this way and that way and pull up and down, but it has to all come back. The balls are basically the anchors. There's straps that run from those balls. You see the brownish looking stuff? Then you see the pink stuff? That's just floppy. That washes off most of the time. And the fluid-filled bags just get flat. Now, when they take cowhide, they take this and then they roll it. They roll the hell out of it and squish all these things together. All these fibers in a mat. And then they throw some chemicals in there. But what we're going to see is all those little black balls. You're going to see a black shiny balls. And then you're going to see a whole mat looking thing. And then I'm going to show you that every one of them has a fiber attached to it. So here's what we're looking at right there is my belt. All right, now what is that? That's my belt. Okay, that's in the microscope. Now let me turn the lights off because it makes it much easier to see. But I have to turn the light up on the scope. Oh, not really. A little bit. All right, now, so what are we looking at? Every one of those is one of those black balls. And this is all these little straps, but there's only a few that you see. But guess what? There's a ton of them. If I come over to where the belt loop is, you see they pull, all the straps pull out. The one down here, I think, is the one I use all of the most time. And the straps just pull out. That's what gives you such strength. Actually, I guess it's this one here. You see, this is the depth of the belt, here to here. That's just nothing but all this, the fibers. This is tough, tough stuff. And these things don't break easy. The balls are the anchors, and that's exactly what it's designed to do, and it's exactly what it does do. All right, that's interstitium. And that fluid-filled highway is right up here, and that guy he was chiseling away. You could see a cavity, and then below, all these little bags were filled with gold. That's the only thing I can take away from that. And then, of course, just as I showed you on my sample, all those little round-looking bubbles of crystals and so forth are part of the plasma and the blood and the transition metals. He was in an area where it's just saturated with transition metals. My stuff doesn't have that really lustrous looking transition metal colors. I think I showed you these. I'm sure I did, but maybe not. Hold on. These are transition metals. And that's what makes all these colors work. And the reason is that they go down and they find something to bind to. They have these oxidation states. These are the things that carry things in your body. Your blood flows through your body, but these are the carriers. They clip onto this and that. They're metal core, and they are transition metals through aqueous solutions using these little attachments called ligands. And they carry it down, and then they get down, and somebody else says, I give you 2 electrons, you give me 2 of this, and I give you 3 of those, you give me 1 of these, and they transition. All right, the body takes all this stuff, and they take some other junk back to be delivered to the lymph nodes. It's a really, really serious system. And this is what he found down inside. All of those transition metals are down in here, you see them? All the little colored transition metals. Now, I have some stuff that, well, hold on, let me put something in the microscope. All right, you saw this. This is at the gold spot. This is below, and this is all the little crystals. Now, I have something in my microscope here. This is cut flat. Hold on a second. Let me adjust this in the light so that you can see it. You see what you're seeing there? Hold on. All those different colors are transition metals, and that's all from blood. This was a lung. And every one of those little spots is an alveoli. You see, if I put it here, you can see flashing. You see all what it's like browny looking underneath there? That's where all the blood was flowing through the alveoli. And the alveoli holes have filled up with silicates. And the silicates have the transition metals in them, different colors. Up here, I think there's a couple of really good spots. But they're just going to fill up with whatever. Now, there was one place he showed had exactly like that. It's the exact same looking colored metal crystal. That's on the outside. That would be the fascia that coated it. And inside, these are all the little alveoli. There's quite a bit of transition metals in this one here. Normally I don't see them this way in my area, but this one just had it. I don't know, it must have fallen in a certain way. And that's the key. You can never tell what you're going to get. Alright, this, I'm 99% sure this is a toe, and I would be 99% sure to say this was gold coming out of this artery area. And the rest of it turned to metals. Alright, there it is in the microscope. Hold on. The rest of it, there's blood, a blood spot there. Like I said, there's a red blood, and then there's the iron, the black. The black caps right off, these two spots, and on the end. Now, the red leaks out. And this right here was where it fed in. It's very hard to see. But that's where the blood was. Now, the rest is primarily all kinds of different metals, because this had to be down, and the red blood ran out of here. And all the rest of the metals just collected. This is heavy. That baby's, it's just nothing but metal. And again, that's the artery. Now, then this toe right here, same thing here. That red part, maybe I did this already. Well, I'll do it again if I didn't do it. All right, there it is. It's way down, and here it is in the microscope. You know, it's a telescoping microscope, so you can go way off. There's the red, which is the artery. There's the black, which is the vein. And the bone basically sits in the center. And hold on, I'm gonna do this by hand again. This is hard to do and keep it flat. But you see how bloody that is, how red that is? And this side is black. All right, that's the way they work. Now, on the bottom of the toe is here. That's all blood ran out. That's blood that ran out of the tip of this toe. All right, and it's crystallized into crystal underneath. See it? And that's the whole thing right there, looking down at the whole top of it in one shot. Now, you see all those different colors? It's very strange, I know. But it's just what happens. Different ones get invaded by different chemistry. Right there, that spot right there, that one I think was pretty much filled up with gold. I scraped it out and looked at it. You see that right, that spot? That's where the stuff leaked out. And it ran around the bottom and crystallized. So it was laying like this. And probably tilted so that all the blood was running down. You see the little tiny hole there? And then the gold starts to like glob up. Well, you see how it was in those balls that guy had. Gold will do that, but it's unusual to see it the way you saw it in his stuff. You see, there's the bone right in the middle. There's the artery right over here.